What if I told you that the true origin of Europeans has been hidden in plain sight for thousands of years? What if the Bible holds the key to understanding how entire nations were formed, yet few have ever connected the dots? For centuries, scholars, theologians, and historians have debated the roots of European civilizations. Some have turned to archaeology, others to linguistics, and many to recorded history. But there exists an ancient text, one that has been scrutinized, revered, and debated for millennia, that may hold answers far older than any modern theory. The Bible, often viewed as a spiritual guide, is also a historical document containing genealogies that stretch back to the dawn of civilization. Within its pages lie the forgotten lineages of nations, the migration patterns of entire peoples, and prophecies that have unfolded over centuries. This is not speculation. This is about connecting the dots between scripture and history. Names that many overlook in the Bible are, in fact, the ancestors of entire populations, their descendants spreading across lands and shaping the world as we know it. Ancient civilizations did not emerge from nowhere. Every empire, every tribe, and every lineage has an origin, one that traces back to the earliest chapters of human history. The purpose of this exploration is not to divide, nor is it to promote any singular perspective. This is about truth, biblical, historical, and undeniable. If you have ever questioned where European nations truly originated, if you have ever wondered how biblical genealogies correspond to the world today, then stay with me. Before we begin, take a moment to subscribe to this channel for more in-depth biblical insights. Like this video to support this research, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your engagement helps bring these historical revelations to more people. Now, let's begin. The bloodline of nations. From the earliest pages of Genesis, the story of humanity's expansion is traced through the three sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. These names are not just ancient relics of a bygone era. They're the foundation of entire civilizations, the echoes of which still shape the world today. Among them, Japheth emerges as a crucial figure in the unfolding of human history, his lineage stretching across vast lands, intertwining with the destinies of great nations. Japheth's descendants, listed in Genesis 10, are more than a collection of unfamiliar names. They're the building blocks of Europe's earliest societies. His sons, Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshech, and Tiras, each carried forth a legacy that would manifest in powerful civilizations, from the windswept steppes of the north to the sun-drenched shores of the Mediterranean. Gomer, for instance, is widely associated with the early Celtic and Germanic tribes, whose presence would later define much of Western Europe. Magog, a name that resonates with prophetic significance, is linked to the nomadic Scythians and other peoples of the Eurasian plains. Madai, the forefather of the Medes, connects directly to the Persian Empire's intricate history, a civilization that would stand at the crossroads of East and West. Javan, a name that carries the weight of maritime expansion, is directly tied to the ancient Greeks, a people whose influence shaped philosophy, democracy, and warfare for centuries to come. Tubal and Meshech find their historical echoes in the regions of Anatolia and the Caucasus, areas steeped in cultural and military conquest. Tiras, often associated with the Thracians, marks the presence of warrior societies that stood defiantly against the empires that sought to consume them. Each name holds a story, one of migration, conquest, and divine orchestration. What began as a single family stepping on a dry land after the flood became the catalyst for nations that would dominate history. Japheth's bloodline spread far and wide, establishing languages, traditions, and ideologies that still persist today. His legacy is imprinted on the European continent, a silent but undeniable testament to the ancient genealogies preserved in Scripture. And this is only the beginning. The deeper we go into biblical genealogy, the more hidden connections we uncover, threads linking the past to the present in ways most never consider. If you're finding this breakdown insightful, hit the like button and share this with someone who loves biblical history. Let's continue this journey of discovery together. Now, let's uncover the ancient migrations, how the sons of Japheth shaped Europe. The ancient world was not a static place. It was a vast, shifting landscape of movement, expansion, and settlement, shaped by those who carried the legacy of their forefathers across untamed lands. Among these early wanderers were the descendants of Japheth, whose journey would leave an indelible mark on the formation of Europe and beyond. From the windswept shores of the Mediterranean to the dense forests of the north, Japheth's lineage spread far and wide, forging civilizations that would shape the very fabric of history. The echoes of their migrations can still be traced in the cultures that would later define the ancient and medieval world: the Celts, the Greeks, the Romans, the Germanic tribes. But this was no random scattering of people. Their movements, though often dictated by necessity, warfare, and survival, carried an unmistakable thread that tied them back to the earliest post-flood generations. Archaeology and historical records provide a striking testament to this biblical lineage. The names of Japheth's sons, Gomer, Magog, Javan, Tubal, Meshech, and Tiras, resonate through time, appearing in the annals of ancient civilizations. Gomer's descendants, thought to be the ancestors of the Celtic and early European tribes, left their mark across the western lands, while Javan, linked to the ancient Greeks, played a role in shaping the intellectual and cultural heart of Europe. Magog, often shrouded in mystery, has been associated with the nomadic tribes of the far north, fierce warriors who would later become integral to the shifting tides of empire and conquest. The Greeks, with their sophisticated city-states and philosophical traditions, emerged as one of the most influential cultures in history, their origins intertwined with the maritime expansions of Javan's people. Rome, which would rise to dominate the known world, carried within its veins the influence of these early migrations, blending the legacies of various Japhetic peoples into an empire that would last for centuries. The Germanic tribes, feared and revered, would later bring about the fall of Rome, carving out the medieval kingdoms that laid the foundation for modern Europe. These movements were not merely accidental wanderings, but part of a grand design, a fulfillment of the mandate given to Noah's sons to populate the earth. The biblical records, often dismissed as mere myth, align with the archaeological discoveries of settlements, trade routes, and genetic lineages that confirm the spread of Japheth's descendants. The ruins of forgotten cities, the remnants of lost languages, and the enduring traditions of ancient peoples all bear silent witness to a story that began long before written history. This is just the beginning. The story of ancient migrations holds keys to understanding not only the past, but also the present. The hidden connections between nations, the wars that shaped continents, and the languages that still carry echoes of their origins, all trace back to these early movements. There is more to uncover, more to piece together from the fragments left behind by time. Let's continue. Now let's look at the mystery of Magog, Gomer, and Javan, hidden prophecies in the Bible. The ancient world was filled with names that carried weight beyond their immediate existence. Names that whispered of distant lands, unseen forces, and destinies intertwined with prophecy. Among them, Magog, Gomer, and Javan stand as enigmatic markers in biblical history, their significance spanning centuries and reaching into the very fabric of civilization. To understand them is to uncover a mystery hidden in plain sight, a prophecy that has shaped the course of nations. Magog. This name emerges from the depths of Scripture, not as a mere reference to a people, but as a force woven into the eschatological framework of Ezekiel's vision. In Ezekiel 38, Magog is not just a territory. It is an entity set apart, a kingdom marked for a climactic role in the final days. The prophet speaks of a coalition, an alliance that rises from the north, a formidable power that will one day descend upon Israel in a prophesied conflict. Many have sought to identify Magog, tracing its lineage through ancient records, aligning it with the Scythians, the steppe warriors who roamed vast territories stretching from Eastern Europe to Central Asia. But Magog is more than a historical remnant. It is a symbol of the forces that gather for the final confrontation, a name that echoes in geopolitical tensions, its shadow cast over the stage of modern history. Then there is Gomer, a name that reverberates through the annals of lost tribes and forgotten migrations. In biblical genealogies, Gomer stands as the forefather of peoples who would spread into the heart of Europe. Some scholars have linked Gomer to the Sumerians, an ancient people who roamed the fringes of the Assyrian Empire before vanishing into the European landscape. Others see in Gomer the ancestors of the Germanic and Celtic tribes, those who would later shape the cultural and military might of Western civilization. The remnants of their influence can still be traced in language, in folklore, in the very spirit of a people who carried their ancient heritage forward without fully understanding its origins. If Gomer's descendants were indeed the forebears of these European nations, then biblical prophecy is not just a message for the Middle East. It is a narrative that extends to the farthest reaches of the Western world, binding it to a story older than the nations themselves. And then there is Javan, the biblical name for Greece. Unlike Magog and Gomer, Javan is not shrouded in as much obscurity. The connection is direct, a thread that links the Hebrew scriptures to the rise of Hellenic influence. From the moment Alexander the Great carved his empire across the known world, Javan's reach extended beyond the Mediterranean. Greek thought, philosophy, and governance reshaped entire civilizations, leaving an intellectual and cultural legacy that continues to define Western identity. But beneath the grandeur of classical Greece, Javan's role in prophecy cannot be overlooked. The rise and fall of Greece, the succession of empires, and the imprint of Hellenism on the very fabric of the biblical world serve as a testament to the divine orchestration of history. These names, Magog, Gomer, and Javan, are not mere footnotes in ancient texts. They are keys to understanding the movement of history, the shaping of nations, and the fulfillment of prophecies that still unfold before our eyes. Their presence in Scripture is not incidental. It is a map, a coded message that reveals the interconnectedness of civilizations and the unseen forces that guide the course of human events. If this is making you rethink everything, drop a comment with your thoughts. Let's discuss. Let's uncover the rise of empires. From the ruins of ancient civilizations rose empires that would shape the world for centuries to come. The story of Europe's dominance is not just one of conquest, diplomacy, and innovation. It is a narrative that seems to have been etched into history long before the first stone of Rome was laid or the banners of Greece waved in victory. The question lingers: did the Bible foresee the rise of these great powers? Were these kingdoms merely accidents of history, or were they pieces of a grand prophetic design, unfolding exactly as foretold? Long before the birth of Alexander the Great, long before the legions of Rome marched across continents, a vision was recorded in the book of Daniel. A colossal statue, its head of gold, its chest of silver, its belly and thighs of bronze, and its legs of iron. Each segment, a kingdom. Each transition, a shift in global power. Babylon fell to Persia, Persia to Greece, Greece to Rome. The iron legs of the statue, the empire that would be unlike any before it, crushing all in its path, was unmistakably Rome. The weight of prophecy was heavy upon its foundations, and history bore witness to its fulfillment. Rome did not merely conquer land. It conquered minds, laws, and cultures. It absorbed the best of Greece, its philosophy, its art, its politics, blending it into something formidable, something eternal. The iron grip of Rome was unyielding, and yet, within its veins, a spiritual force began to rise. A force foretold not in statues of gold or silver, but in the whispers of prophets and the visions of apostles. Christianity emerged not as a footnote to Rome's reign, but as a force destined to outlive it. And so, The story did not end with Rome's fall. The empire crumbled, but its legacy fractured into kingdoms that would dominate Europe for centuries. From the ashes of pagan rule, Christian monarchies rose, binding the continent not just through power, but through faith. The cross became as mighty as the sword, and prophecy continued to unfold. Revelation spoke of beasts and kingdoms, of powers that would shape the world in ways unseen. With the alliances of Europe, the wars, the revolutions, and even the modern structure of nations, all echoes of an ancient vision. The threads of history and prophecy weave a tale too precise to ignore. The symbols of Daniel, the visions of John, the rise and fall of empires, each piece aligning in ways that continue to astonish scholars and theologians alike. If history followed prophecy before, could it still be unfolding before our very eyes? Make sure you're subscribed. Our next video will go even deeper into biblical prophecy and world history. Let's continue. Let's uncover the lost tribes of Israel and their connection to Europe. The mystery of the lost tribes of Israel has captivated scholars, theologians, and historians for centuries. It is a story shrouded in exile, displacement, and an uncertain fate. According to biblical records, after the Assyrian conquest of the northern kingdom of Israel in the 8th century BCE, 10 of the 12 tribes vanished from recorded history. Their disappearance has given rise to countless theories, but one of the most debated is the idea that these lost tribes migrated into Europe, subtly weaving their lineage into the fabric of Western civilization. This theory, though controversial, is not without its foundations. Ancient texts and historical migrations point to patterns that suggest Israelite exiles may have traveled northward, merging with emerging societies. Some researchers argue that traces of their influence can be found in the customs, linguistic similarities, and even genealogical claims of various European peoples. The Scythians, the Celts, the Saxons. Could these groups hold echoes of an Israelite past? While mainstream history is cautious in making such assertions, there are undeniable correlations that continue to fuel the debate. One of the most compelling aspects of this theory lies in the historical movements of exiled populations. The Assyrians were known for forcibly relocating conquered peoples, scattering them across their vast empire. If remnants of the Israelite tribes did, in fact, journey beyond the Middle East, their descendants would have had to integrate into foreign cultures, adopting new languages and traditions while retaining certain aspects of their identity. Some claim that references to lost Israelite customs can be found in early European societies, subtle yet significant markers of an ancient lineage forgotten by time. The theological implications of this theory are profound. If the lost tribes of Israel did, in some way, contribute to the populations of Europe, what does this mean for biblical prophecy? What does it say about the unfolding of history as foretold in Scripture? Some interpretations suggest that these dispersed tribes were never truly lost, but instead became hidden within the nations, destined to play a role in the grand design of human history. Others see this as a challenge to traditional narratives, one that forces us to reconsider the way we understand ancestry, divine purpose, and the fulfillment of biblical promises. Whether one accepts or rejects this theory, it remains a discussion worth having. The weight of history, faith, and identity converge in this debate, raising questions that demand exploration. And so, if this perspective is new to you, let me know in the comments. This discussion needs more voices. Let's look at the future of Europe in biblical prophecy. Europe has long stood at the crossroads of history, its nations shaping the rise and fall of civilizations, empires, and ideologies. Yet beyond politics and power struggles, the Bible speaks of a deeper narrative, one that weaves Europe into the grand design of end-time prophecy. To understand the future of this continent, we must first recognize the patterns of history, for Scripture reveals that what has been will be again. From the towering strength of Rome to the fragmented kingdoms that followed, biblical prophecy has long echoed through Europe's past. Daniel's vision of the statue, gold, silver, bronze, iron and clay, mirrors the succession of empires that have ruled and reshaped this land. Rome, symbolized by iron, was the last of these mighty forces, and the divided feet of iron and clay speak of the Europe we see today, strong in some parts, weak in others, a mixture that struggles to stand united. This fragmentation is not by accident, but by divine design, a setup for the final chapter of history. Scripture points to a coming confederation, a revived structure reminiscent of ancient Rome. Whether through political alliances, economic treaties, or military coalitions, the pieces are already in place. The book of Revelation describes a final empire that will wield global influence, one with roots that stretch back to the power structures of old. The European Union, with its shifting policies and internal divisions, stands as a fascinating modern-day parallel to the prophetic blueprint laid out centuries ago. History is more than a collection of past events. It is a cycle, a repetition of patterns that reveal God's sovereignty over nations. In the days of Nebuchadnezzar, Babylon seemed invincible. In the height of Rome's reign, its fall seemed unthinkable. Yet both collapsed, proving that no empire, no matter how powerful, can stand against the course God has set. What then of Europe today? Its influence, its internal struggles, its attempts at unity. These are not random, but calculated steps in a divine plan. The rise of ideologies, the shifting of power, the push for a new world order, all of it aligns with prophecies that foretell the shape of the last days. This understanding is not just for scholars or historians. It is for those who seek truth, those who want to be prepared. If history repeats itself, then ignorance of it is dangerous. The Bible is not simply a book of the past. It is a key to the future. Those who dismiss prophecy dismiss a warning, a revelation of what is to come. Europe's role in the end times is not speculation. It is written, waiting to unfold. The question is not if these events will come to pass, but when. The weight of history presses upon us, an unbroken chain of events shaped by hands that built, destroyed, and rebuilt civilizations. Kingdoms have risen in glory and crumbled into dust, their stories rewritten to serve new rulers, new ideologies, new agendas. But in the shifting sands of human memory, one truth remains unmoved. The Bible, ancient, unwavering, and untouched by the erosion of time, stands as both a witness and a guide, offering clarity to those willing to seek it. Every page, every prophecy, every name etched in its sacred text carries meaning beyond what meets the eye. The Bible does not simply recount history. It preserves it in its purest form, unfiltered by the hands of revisionists. It weaves a narrative that is not just spiritual, but deeply historical, a blueprint that reveals the unseen hand of God shaping the rise and fall of nations. While historians debate, reinterpret, and discard inconvenient truths, Scripture stands unshaken, its words resonating with a power that transcends generations. And now, as you sit with this knowledge, the question remains, what will you do with it? Will you walk away as so many have, dismissing the unbroken pattern of prophecy fulfilled before our very eyes? Or will you lean in, question deeper, and seek the hidden connections that modern minds refuse to acknowledge? This is not just about history. It is about identity, about understanding where we come from, why the world stands as it does, and where it is headed. The Bible is not just a religious document. It is a map, a revelation, a living testimony to the divine orchestration of human history. If this revelation has opened your eyes, let it not end here. Like this video as a sign of your commitment to seeking deeper truths. Subscribe for more insights that challenge the surface-level narratives and dig into the depths of biblical wisdom. And most importantly, share your thoughts, because every voice that questions, every mind that seeks, brings us one step closer to uncovering the reality that has been hidden in plain sight. Do you believe the Bible accurately traces the origins of modern nations? If so, why? And if not, what do you think has been lost or rewritten The conversation does not end with this video. It begins with your willingness to explore.